Jonathan Lemire, can you help us out here? Because you're like real smart. You're in Washington. First of all, I didn't get a thank you from my mother for her funeral a couple weeks ago.
No.
Should I hold this against her?
No.
It is difficult to send thank yous from beyond the grave, typically.
Yes.
And also, I don't want to brag.
Go, please do brag.
Yeah.
I don't want to brag, but the hardball you guys were talking about the McCain segment.
Yes.
I was on that hardball.
I know.
Last night.
Well,
so
we
good.
understand that. So I would like you to explain, as you did on the mystery version of Hardball.
It was so good.
What exactly did Donald Trump not get wrong, but what did he get right about that soliloquy? And please explain to us whether he's the one that makes the decision about who lies in state and Congress, whether he's the one who makes the decision about how the ceremonies run at the National Cathedral, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
He got far more wrong than he got right. He did play a small role in the McCain funeral proceedings, but he does not. No president approves the funerals of members of Congress. Congress itself decides who lies in state. The Washington National Cathedral has oversight of what happens in their church. In the services for McCain in Arizona was done by the governor there. What the president did do was arrange for a military transport that would take McCain's casket from Arizona to Washington. He arranged for some of the horses and the bands and some of the procession that came with it. So he did play a small role in the proceedings, but he certainly didn't give the funeral to John McCain. He certainly shouldn't expect a thank you from the late senator. And more than that, this illuminates just how McCain has persistently been under his skin and how he is unable to let any slight go, even in this case, 7 or more months after John McCain passed away.
John Meacham was talking about him in present tense yesterday.
This is disturbing.
Attacking him in present tense.
More disturbing.
To a very quiet audience who was horrified by what he was saying. For those of us who knew John McCain, I can hear his laughter right now that he is still getting under Donald Trump's skin 7 months later.
I think the other thing is I would bet a good bit of money that the president is conflating McCain's death with President Bush's, and it's all kind of mixed up there.
Yeah.
I think he's sort of confused about state funerals, and I guess you could say that sentence about almost everything and just leave the object of the preposition open. But I think that's a big part of this, and it is. I mean, one of the remarkable things about this era, and what's going to make it, I think, fairly straightforward for historians, is could this man have an unexpressed thought? I mean, I don't know if actually just from a purely physical, scientific view he could. So he talks, he just, anything that comes to mind comes out. And so his obsession with these figures who were military heroes, who did have extraordinary connections to their parties, however complicated, is a constant obsession. And someone commented, I think, brilliantly, I mean, this is like Macbeth meets C-SPAN. I mean, that's what's going on.
It really is. Noah, you're writing about this. It's also odd, if you look yesterday on Twitter, you see he's in a battle with one of the foremost conservative legal minds, George Conway. He's in a battle with the ghost of John McCain, a man who was swept into Washington in the Reagan Revolution in the early 1980s and served in the Republican Party and was the nominee in 2008. You have people like Pete Wehner, who, you know, basically ran Karl Rove shop for George W. Bush. All of them talking about how this man mentally is breaking down before our eyes. These aren't left-wingers. These are people who were the backbone of the Republican Party and the conservative movement for 30 years.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any behavior that's different, though, from what he's always done. And he's always been this unstable. So To the extent that there's a mental issue
I think there's a ramp up over the past few days.
Well, in that case, then we're in real trouble because we're starting from a base level that's unacceptable.
Totally agree.
This is an effort, but you get a glimmer of self-consciousness about what is essentially an effort to stigmatize a dissenter against the cult of personality. They're saying they're trying to justify it. The president's trying to justify it, saying, you know, the Steele dossier, he gave it to the FBI, and the Obamacare vote. I resent the Obamacare vote. First of all, this is all revisionism. This feud began between the two of them in early 2015, and right after he came down the escalator when John McCain dissented from the comments about Mexico. The notion here that John McCain giving this unverified but troubling document to the appropriate authorities is somehow untoward is really hard to swallow. An associate did give it to the press, so we can reserve some judgment there, but the Obamacare thing really sticks under my skin because John McCain voted against one iteration of the Obamacare repeal bill. Donald Trump campaigned against another one. He said on the stump in Iowa that it was mean, that it lacked heart, that it didn't have enough money. He killed that bill. He gets a total pass from his supporters for killing that bill because it was based in conscience. But John McCain killing this iteration, that's unacceptable.
And it's ridiculous. And that was just a skinny repeal anyway. It shouldn't surprise us. And I don't think we should even waste our breath to let you know Donald Trump's lying even about that part of it. And if you are a Trump supporter and you're running around saying that John McCain was a, quote, traitor because he didn't vote to repeal Obamacare, please don't admit that to anybody outside of your home, because that's a really stupid thing to say. I ask you again, get your hand out of the blender, okay? Turn it off first, then get your hand out of the blender, and then go next door, knock with your other hand, and ask if you can borrow their Google machine, because you're really going to make a fool of yourself if you repeat what this guy's babbling about.
Amid his new attacks against John McCain, a growing number of Republicans who this advice could apply to are now criticizing President Trump, including one of McCain's closest Senate colleagues, Lindsey Graham.
I think the president's comments about Senator McCain hurt him more than they hurt the legacy of Senator McCain. I'm going to try to continue to help the president. And a lot of people are coming to John's defense now that called him crazy and a warmonger, so it's kind of interesting to see the politics of how this dispute's being used to bash Trump by people who are against both Trump and McCain. I've got to know the president. We have a good working relationship. I like him. I don't like it when he says things about my friend John McCain.
So how do you characterize the way President Trump was talking about Senator McCain, and what do you think it says about the president?
It's deplorable what he said. That's what I called it from the floor of the Senate 7 months ago.
So if you're listening in the car, that was Senator Johnny Isakson, a Republican of Georgia. He was as clear as anybody has been. Mitt Romney was probably first, but Senator Isakson was clear in his condemnation.
Lindsey just can't come out and condemn the president of the United States. And by the way, what does he even mean by, I think it's interesting that some people who didn't support John McCain are now defending. Yes. He's dead.
Yes.
He can't defend himself. He is a dead war hero who rotted in a Hanoi prison and
served
was beaten so badly he couldn't raise his arms above his shoulders for the rest of his life and refused to leave until all of his other inmates left. I mean, what does Lindsey not understand? That's not a partisan fight. You can fight over wars and you can fight over campaign finance. You don't fight over that.
And you don't need to qualify it. Some of these Republicans are sort of couching their, and even Mitch McConnell, the majority leader, he came out and just talked about McCain, what a great man he was, but he wouldn't come out and condemn President Trump. Many of them, including the leader of the Senate, can't bring themselves to criticize the president.
Yeah, and it was a weak tweet. I mean, this is something, let me step back for a second. Look, this is a president who refused to serve, who, besides never served, but refused to serve, who's attacking a war hero, a veteran. And the thing that I think that really the damage is made, just imagine if you're waking up this morning as a veteran and you hear the commander-in-chief, attacking a war hero, attacking a veteran, or you're an active duty soldier overseas and you hear the commander-in-chief attacking a war hero, attacking a veteran. There is no bottom with this guy. We all say that over and over again. But there are some fundamental kind of damage that he's doing with our own military by doing that. And he spoke for 5 minutes unprompted and he said, oh, they asked me because they love me. It's all about him. And he just needs to be president. But it seems like it will never happen.
And this defense that we've heard from some of the president's supporters, Joe, that he's a counterpuncher. We always hear you're counterpunching against a guy who's been dead for 7 months. That's not counterpunching.
That's sort of it's like that commercial that says timing's everything, and the woman says, I love you. The guy stares at her. She gets up and leaves crying, and 5 minutes later he goes, I love you too. Like, you're counterpunching. You're so slow and old and out of shape that you're counterpunching.
This is
7
not
months
what's
later.
going on.
And counterpunching against what exactly? Yeah.
What? You know what? Against his honor.
Yeah.
Counterpunching against the fact that John McCain was more of a man than Donald Trump ever was, never will be. He was a hero. It's interesting though. You talked about all the deferments. I learned something yesterday really interesting. Bob Kerrey, former senator of Nebraska, who left part of himself on the battlefield in Vietnam, actually explained that bone spurs don't go away. They stay with you.
Oh, so he would still have them, and then he would know which foot
still have those bone spurs, right? So maybe we should
ask him.
Who's the doctor with hair all over the place?
Foot? Crazy Dr. Ornstein. Why do you know that, Alex?
Maybe we could get him to do a foot exam.
All right.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.